So this video goes against conventional wisdom, or the conventional wisdom of 2022 anyway, which is to choose whole foods 90% of the time. So I am a naturopath by trade. This is not a quacky profession. It is a profession that encourages whole food eating because there's a scientific fact that your body will operate better if you eat from Mother Nature herself. So as far as eating junk food is concerned, the healthier constitution you have, the more resilience you have towards junk food. So if you're a low stress individual, you're happy most of the time, you sleep well, your hormones are fantastic, your gut health is robust, then eating junk food is likely not going to impact you in the way that somebody else may be impacted if they're less healthy. Okay, so what does that mean though? So what is a healthy person? So we're not talking about the health that a pharmaceutical company or a medical doctor would describe, because remembering that the blood test that they determine your health within is actually a snapshot of the average population, and the average population probably has 1, 2, or 3 or more health conditions. So always remember that a healthy person, and the actual definition of health, is somebody without disease. So we want to focus on that definition of health, so that vibrant, alive feeling. That's what we want to strive for in life. Okay, so how do you know if you have a healthy constitution? So firstly, you will not have a health condition. Secondly, you won't have ongoing gut issues, so bloating, constipation, inflammation, pain, diarrhea, this kind of thing. You'll have healthy looking skin, hair, and nails. You'll have sound mental health, so no depression, anxiety, PTSD, personality disorders, that kind of thing. You'll have healthy hormones and a bearable menstrual cycle. And you will be a healthy weight, remembering that this is between about 18 to 30% body fat for women. So it's not a crime to have any of those things. As I worked through all of this, I had all of those categories, tick, 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 sometimes 1 or 2 or 3 things from each category. So I am not a perfect health person. I've had a lot of stress in my life, but that's why I have the authority to teach you this stuff now. So when the body is stressed, symptoms exist. And something you may not know is that all a medical doctor does is grab your cluster of symptoms and give them a name. So that is what a diagnosis is. If you have something with itis on the end, it's just inflammation. If you have something with syndrome, it means we don't know what it is. It's a cluster of symptoms. So chronic fatigue syndrome, we don't know what it is. If you have fibromyalgia, you have pain, but they don't know what it is. So just keep in mind, there's a lot of conditions they actually don't understand. They just want to throw a drug at you. There's nothing wrong with taking the drug, because in many cases it can improve your quality of life, but is an indication that your body's health is starting to fail. And in this modern day, it has been established through the science of epigenetics that actually only about 5% of our current status in health is due to genetics. So it used to be that everything we get is just genetic. Yes, there has to be a genetic blueprint existing in your body for a condition to manifest. What actually triggers that health condition to express itself is the environment. And what is the number one thing that you have control over in your environment? That is your food. And also keep in mind that corporations are profit-based. So in food companies, they have no reason to highlight to you that their foods might be damaging in the long term. But what they do have is billions and billions in profit and money to spend on fudging studies and manipulating data to show you that it's actually okay. So just remember, when they do a study, you kind of have a petri dish, or you'd have what you'd call a military age man most of the time, so the most resilient constitution of all time. And then they'll say, see, we put the thing in the dish or in the body and there was no negative health outcome. But it's not quite that simple, because we don't actually just exist as military age men. For example, where we are women, we're very different. Our hormones are completely different to that of a man's. And secondly, we aren't petri dishes. We have multiple things going through the body. So it's not that simple. You want to clean up your environment. Also, something I want to highlight is they do not compare a healthy whole food diet to any other type of diet, because they consider it to be unethical. So that pretty much means, 1, they know that the healthy whole food diet will prevail, but that has absolutely no benefit to them and their profits. So they're not committing any crimes here. They're just manipulating the perception around things so that we don't fully understand it. Because if we're confused and we don't understand, we're going to buy the Doritos. We're not going to eat the apple, we're going to buy the Doritos, because the Doritos taste better. So now you're probably thinking, what about animal products causing cancer? What about fruit having too much sugar? What about dairy being inflammatory? What about eggs having cholesterol? What about fat making me fat? What about lectins? Don't they ruin my gut? Isn't veganism the best thing that we can do in the future? But I hear you, crazy world out there. But always remembering what I said about having a healthy whole food diet that involves all of the foods that we've been eating since the dawn of time. This is always going to prevail. And then also back to the kind of influencer discussion we had before. If somebody's a doctor and they want to have some type of breakthrough, they probably are going to produce a book saying don't eat beans because beans are the problem. And then somebody else will say don't eat sugar, sugar's the problem. They tell you that animal protein is bad, but what they don't tell you is they're talking about the standard American diet, which involves bacon, burger meat, which is not always, it's not grass-fed beef, They're talking about salami, which is made in the worst fashion when you're outside of Europe. If you just had grass-fed organic meat, chicken, lean turkey, eggs, this is absolutely not going to kill you. How do you think we made it through millions of years of evolution? So always think back to what the body's been eating since the dawn of time. Before these diseases existed. Now we have a heap of diseases, and what has changed? Yeah, important to understand the fundamentals because it really helps you to decipher what you should be doing. You can eat the apple even though it has sugar because it also comes with fiber. It's not going to spike your blood sugar in the same way that a whole bag of red frogs will. And it's also not going to mess with your metabolism or mess with your hunger hormones and cause you to eat more than what you need. You could easily eat a whole bag of red frogs, but it's very hard to eat the equivalent sugar in apples because you'd have to eat 4 of them. You get over them very quickly because Mother Nature designed them. Mother Nature knows what the body needs and the body takes what it needs from it, and then it says, hi, we're full. Okay, so eat processed food on occasion. If you eat a lot of processed food, don't be upset with yourself. Don't try and cut it all out in one go. You just want to make little changes. So let's just say you have 10 what you would consider junk food meals a week. Go to 9, then go to 8, then go to 7. Little changes are way safer for the body anyway, and it's much easier for you to stick to in the long run. So that is that tip. So intentionally eat good food. You want your body to have its essential proteins and fats and calories for a healthy metabolism. So the media will try and dictate your decisions, but if you just stick to this kind of basic principle, everything will fall into place.